Yes, and welcome back in this new video where we're going to talk about range-based for loop. Range-based for loop has been introduced with C++11 and it got a different structure. Okay, the structure looks a little bit like that, as you can see there. For we open the parentheses, variable type, the name of the variable, colon, then sequence, okay, and we close parentheses and we just provide the statement, okay, and finish it with the semicolon, okay. So with that one we can use a variable name, okay. So that's a little bit it about the structure. So exactly like with if statement or for loop, when we have more than one line of statement, we have to provide curly braces in order to use a block, okay. So that's what I'm describing right there, okay. So let's get down and see one example where we are using range based for loop, okay. So this is our first example, okay. I have, for instance, my array defined like that with three elements, 100, 19, and 97, okay. So using the range based for loop, I'm going to say for integer score, okay. So this is the variable name that I'm using, colon, and I provide the name of my array, okay, cout score. So it's almost the same that we use, we're going to have the same output in comparison with the one that we use for with the regular for loop, okay. You're going to see that when I'm going to execute this, I'm going to have all the elements of my array display, okay. So let's compile using the shortcut Ctrl F7 and execute it with Ctrl F5, okay, build and execute it, and you see we have exactly the same output that we got on the previous episode, okay. So that's a little bit it. It's making C++ uh, looking more modern, since C++11, okay. So I'm going to move forward on the next example, okay. So use auto to allow compiler to find himself the type of element, okay. So we have the possibility to use auto here in replacement to the integer type directly, and compiler, when compiler going to see auto, compiler going to understand that he have to double check using the auto function. You have to double check and guess what is the type of the variable that we are using, okay. So I'm setting up the same example here using auto, and you're going to see that you're going to have the same output. So this is another way to use your uh, your range based loop, okay, your range based for loop, okay. So let's uncomment this quickly and let's try to, I'm going to rebuild it in order to clean as well, okay. And Control 5, I'm just going to execute, and you see we have the same output. So compiler was able to guess what is the type here, okay. So that's a little bit it about auto. If you see auto in some for range-based for loop, you have to understand the signification on that of that one, okay. So I'm going to move forward right now with a with another code which is a little bit more complexity, okay. So for this code, I've defined a vector the type double temps, okay, and I've initialized 4 temps, okay, and after that I've defined 2 double variable, average temp and running sum, okay, and I'm using the auto again here, okay, for auto temp colon temps, okay, my vector running sum incremented to temp, okay, so I'm going to run I'm going to get the running sum equal the value the increment value temp, okay, that's a little bit that's a little bit what this means, okay, and after that I have this next if statement that I've put in down, okay, if temps that empty average temp equal running sum slash temp size, see out average temperature average temp as see out temperature vector is empty, okay, so this is a quick vector. So the next example that I'm setting up is about this vector, the type double and the name temps, okay. I'm setting up 4 different temperature and I have 2 double variable. One is average temp and the next one is running sum, okay. The purpose of this code is to evaluate the average temp and after that see out that average temp result, okay. So for that I've implemented a range based for loop using auto right there, okay, temp colon temps running sum plus equal temp semicolon. What does that mean? This for loop means simply that I'm going to iterate through every element and sum them all together and stock my result in this variable name running sum, okay. So that's what my code going to proceed, okay. So after that I have the next section of my code. This section is just is here just to check if my temps vector is empty or not. So if my temp vector is not empty, okay, the average temp should be equal to the running sum divided by the temp dot size, okay. You understand that, right? Temp dot size normally should be the size of my vector, which is 1 2 3 4, okay. So after that I'm going to see out average temperature colon. I'm just going to display the value of this previous operation, okay. Else see out temperature vector is empty. So in case that somebody emptied this vector, you're just going to have this output. This first step is not going to be possible, okay. So I'm going to rebuild my project, my program quickly and run it, okay. So control 5 execution, and you see my average temperature is 79.225, okay. And you can put a pause and try to verify this result. You will see that is exactly what we got, okay. So that's a little bit it about this this function, okay, this program, okay. So before to end up this episode on range based for loop, I'm going to run through this last example, okay, where I'm still using the auto option, okay. So I'm using the auto option now in order to iterate through unique, okay, which is a string, okay. So I'm going to save my code since I've modified a couple stuff, okay. So this last four loop using auto should this one should iterate through each character of the first name Yannick and just see out them and move on the next line until the end. Okay, so the string vector is so special, and I'm gonna come back on it in the next episode. Okay, we're gonna take a couple time to explain a couple stuff about it. So if you want to learn more about string stuff and so on, don't forget to subscribe to this video and make sure to be online and watch that oncoming episode. Okay, so I'm gonna reboot my program in order to run this. Okay, and you can see that I'm using comment option everywhere in order to move forward with uh, with the same program. Okay, if you didn't watch that episode on the comment with C++, let's check it on my video on my channel. You should be able to see it over there. Okay, so I'm going to do Control F5 and execute it, and you see exactly what I've described before. So that's a little bit it about what I would like to share with you on range-based for loop. Um, Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you have learned something new, please like, subscribe, and see you on the next video on our C++ series. Bye.